Unmasking Duality. 2 to 1 and None. A Poetic Philosophical Journey. Unmasking Duality. By AllU. Introduction. At substratum of existence, there is no resistance. Total spontaneous essence. Appearing as here and now presence. This philosophical book on consciousness and thoughts spans a poetic journey from self-identity, consciousness expressing as you, me and we, to one and the final dawning of none. The identifications that we face keeps us from seeing through the haze, and they are often revealed through one or another form of rejection or dejection. That may lead to the walk of honest reflection. Living in and from the heart requires courage. To be open to whatever presents itself in the moment. Many inspired this life in numerous ways. Through the tango life plays. I thank all without giving any names. In the end there is none to hold any claims. That which unifies us all is deeper than form and untouched by time. AllU. Forward. I have always thought that A has the uncanny ability to stay above the mundane. She is composed, brief in speech, definite, precise, yet supple in movement, taking nourishment from nature, skilled in the arts and, above all, abundant in love. If you have known her for any length of time, you could see how her poems reflect her presence. They radiate serenity just as she does. No wonder they have that feel of spontaneity and inevitability about them, as though they just came out of her without her actually sitting there and composing them. The book could be called not just Beyond Poetry, but Beyond Philosophy, Religion and Spirituality as well. The work is an exercise in the transcendence of duality. The poems in the book are a reminder to each of us that we are all an expression of one being and that all our struggles of existence are a result of losing sight of that fact. They call us back to our primary existence where we live and act as one being, instead of being torn apart and asunder by thought-created structures and values. Consciousness or being expresses itself through thought as the multifarious world, and with thought the self is born. The self divides itself from the world and from others and strives for fulfillment. But if thoughts are not owned, if they merely watched and let go, they lose the ability to divide, and then we are back to what we were in the first place, namely, a nothing which is also being. There are no struggles in this primary existence. Nor is there any need for fulfillment or enlightenment. We are already fulfilled, even if we may never know that. But this requires that we give up all effort and hope, that we cease from any attempt to change a given situation or ourselves as we are, and fully accept what is. Then our thoughts, that is our past, will simmer down on their own. It is still possible that discrete elements from our past may show themselves up from time to time, and perhaps even frequently. It may even seem as if the wheel of the past would never stop rolling into our consciousness. But it is our acceptance of what is and indifference to it, and not our attempt to change it into something better or be carried away by it, that enables us to remain in the present and watch the appearance and disappearance of the past as a show. That way, we can have a glimpse of the unity of being. A says that we are all created with a nature given to us by the One. The One is the grand mystery which is beyond our comprehension and, of course, our thought. If we accept what we are, then we won't have to put up a futile struggle to change our nature and thus create further friction and duality within ourselves. If we accept what we are and realize that we too are an expression of the One, then there is a possibility of the transcendence of duality happening effortlessly. A also seems to take the stance that everything that happens is meant to happen, as if it were all part of a grand master plan. We can either fight it and bring misery upon ourselves, or we can assent and yield to it and live in peace. We normally tend to believe that we can control events through our will by assuming that each thought that occurs to us is our own, and that we, as a self, are the source of it. And we also assume that we are the author of our actions as each of these thoughts generates action. But look at this example. When I go for a walk in cool weather with a jacket on, at some point on the walk I become aware of the fact that I get too warm, and the thought occurs to me that I should take off my jacket. Then I take it off. In this sequence of events, I imagine myself to be the author of the thought that I should take off my jacket and also the author of my action of taking off my jacket through my thought that I should do so. But look at what happened today. I went for my walk with my jacket on. At a certain point of my walk I found myself with the jacket on my forearm already removed from me, without the slightest forethought or even awareness of the fact of my removing. What happened to the action-generating thought? Where was I and where was my thought? Should we still say that they were there at all? Or could we just say that the events just happened in a sequence and I as a self and my thought had no role to play in them? The self and its will, in the form of a thought, are thus both illusory. Seeing this will help us in reconciling ourselves to the course of events rather than attempting to change them, thereby creating friction and duality. Letting go of everything, including enlightenment, is what enables you to become free from the past and be in the present now and here. And that is what removes the duality in your existence and puts you in touch with the Absolute. For practical day-to-day living, it is, however, important to become aware of the point of view from which we look at the world, before we could let that go and become free of it. Or else, we would be caught in endless cycles of reacting. The poems in this book are concise, crisp, and refreshing like a light cool breeze. These rhyming verses are sprinkled with contemporary images and metaphors. They can act as a reminder of the foundation of our being where none of our problems exist. They are an attempt to point to the one and only true and authentic existence, prompting us to question our daily existence and investigate into it. Let your mind rest and repose in these poems that are part of the play of consciousness in its awareness of itself. Let your being absorb them, and see if you don't yourself experience the tranquility reflected in them. Now Yanamati, Ph.D. Chapter 1. Mirrors. Is about reflections. Mirroring new directions. The mirrors. One got visually impaired. When one into the hall of mirrors browsed, and the reflection of many aroused. One looked around, and the other was found. One into the mirror stared, and two was paired. The sparks flared. Passion was declared. Two or more got ensnared. When the mirrors cease, there is release and the others decrease. One with itself once again at peace. The reflective pool. In life's reflective pool, we may over someone else drool, especially when trusting this to be love, and the heart flutter and fly like a dove, until by chance, the reflection move to another stance, and there is a separation in the dance. No longer thrilled because expectations were not filled. If we truly look in the pool and clearly see that the one looking back is not he or she, but the one presence of essence that appear as he, she. The dream. When one gets dreamy, things have a tendency to get hot and steamy. Dreaming away of a you and me, and how we forever together can be. Dreaming that the true lover is in the other. Then the roles reverse. And once again, alone one traverse. Feeling lonely and that life is a curse. Over and over this dream we rehearse. What is hidden in this poem or verse? What was present before the curse? The question rehearse. And one may find there is no curse. Personal love. Personal love wants to know what's in store. Making it a constant chore, to find out what's ahead. Laying life out in a spread. To plan and envision what the mind holds as a vision. Forgetting that what keeps us distraught is in the head the thought that the future holds a secret more enticing than now. That is how we most often lose your center. By letting the future, or past, enter. Maybe there is a need for revision of that which we envision. Why endorse thought to lead the way? And continually listen to what they have to say? Where can we find the treasure that is not moved by past or future pressure? Want and need. love born out of want and need, have already separation as a seed. We like to be courted and given gifts, with enough assurance to risk any doubts or shifts. There is nothing wrong with this, as long as we are aware of what is amiss. There is no insurance covering love born of demand, if often run through your hand like sand. No matter how big our wedding band, with the reverse of want and need, love will blossom and everything feed. Of want there is no need. Attraction and reaction. To what we attract, we are bound to react. Infatuation or repulsion will be the fact. Dualistic love is another name for the same. Both are born from the same thoughts by a seed, and the thoughts can surely to confusion lead. Is it such a task to take off the unseen mask that clouded our sight, so we can bring on the light? Only in duality is there this fight of what is wrong or right. Everything is on loan. Everything is on loan. There is nothing that we own. Our money, lover, child, husband or wife, is sustained and owned by life. Everything we have and by conceptual ownership hold, is as perishable as that which can mold. Ownership, if such is the fate, we see but one, when we relate. This includes enemies, friends and mate. Some call that being awake. Can you truly see there are no we? That nothing belongs to us and we are not to? Can we therefore anything claim, anyone blame? When owner and ownership are the same, we cannot thoughts train, nor them tame. That will just leave us crippled and lame. Rather, there is no need to pay so much attention to what they have to mention. That is the redemption of thought's endless temptation. Unconditional love. If we truly discern, is there anything we do, without motivation or investment return? That is the assurance behind our mental thoughts and mind. It is endowed to be this way. In that, we have no say. But note the difference between spontaneity and continuity. Does the spontaneous singing of a bird ask us to pay for what is heard? Does the sun ask for a fine, or it won't on us shine? Does a dog quit its affection because we didn't win the election? We speak of unconditional love, with great regard. Can we give it without any reward? What is absolute love? What is love that soars with the peace of a dove? Love that is truly free, when we simply let it be. Not filled with things we expect, that only pain can detect, but infinite acceptance of existence as it is, naturally emerged from the inner core of bliss. This love requires no road, map or especially dedicated day. It needs no words and has nothing to say. It is in itself existence and the way. Life does not need a reason to exist. It is existence itself. Wordless gift. The wordless gift of care is when we fullness of presence share. Can we sit with someone without the need to talk? Talking often leads the mind astray, and on a walk, words can the moment cleave. And we wear the heart on our sleeve. The opposite is also true, when it comes to what words can brew. Once in a while come from the middle. Enjoy the silence without the fiddle. Friction. Humans have by nature an addiction to mental fiction that causes friction. The inherent desire to resist gives rise to another twist. Man engage in various sorts of drama, often give an outlet in mental trauma. No matter the resistance, the high has the low in tow. Those that walk in flow are those that accept what is, wherever they go. Total love. The love that few know does not carry any conditions in tow. It is total and contained, and cannot to any specific objects or forms be chained. This love is absolute. In unified wholeness it constitutes the love that most know can just as easily dislike so. Mostly it is based on some return and need. And when not reciprocated the heart often bleed. Embracing love from the whole leaves nothing and none to control. Total absolute divine love is impersonal, desireless and seeks nothing and wants nothing. It gives freely, selflessly, compassionately, dispassionately and unconditionally without attachments. Eye of separation. The eye that does not with clarity see. Notice is the outer world from the standpoint of you, me and we. Where the other may act as the role of teacher, parent and lover. A tear may find its way down the cheek. As if for comfort from this we separation seek. The eye that does not with clarity see has ceased the correlation of be. Underlying each tear is the ever-wakeful total sphere. Beingness in absolute whole vision, containing no division. Silent resonance. Verbal tug and war creates resistance and more. Silent resonance gives nothing away. It is already here to stay. It all depends on how we interpret it anyway. If the heart intensely long to emit the silent resonant song, the appearance of a separate you will be extinct and gone. Yes, you will still respond and act. Now aware of this silent fact. Chapter 2. Edifying Depictions is about uncovering conceptual restrictions. Nothing is wasted. No matter what experience we may have tasted. Everything goes where it is meant to go. Events are designed so. We are not the designer of these sets. No need to waste time in regrets. It only guilt begets. Events will come and pass. Like footsteps on wet grass. Images are conceptual, and on the screen of life pasted. So how can anything be wasted? Primary and secondary. Consciousness/life expresses primarily in two ways. Man is by nature mostly unaware of the intricate mazes play. The first one predominantly acts upon what is considered physical facts, such as eating, sleeping, procreating and eliminating. Things that involve no major contemplating. They are just naturally adhered to and done, and require no defending to operate and run. Now here is the pun. The second one above all acts. As if the first one something important lacks. Such as fashion, religion, politics and arts. That navigates through endless mental debating charts. Discussing, approving, criticizing and defending the stance. That may have entered through the mind's dance. By some unknown chance. Some will be called to see this dual dance. And be conscious of the common trance. These two expressions are imprinted upon life. And not to be seen as strife. By seeing the very different roles they both play. There is clarity on the way. The first one always expresses what is. The second one is mostly what gets man in misery and atis. Where thoughts habitually project what is amiss. Seeing this, leaves room for both the physical and mental phys. Judge and compare. It's a common flair, to judge and compare. Be it life, or the guru and teacher of our choice. We judge and compare, which one has the most sacred voice. Or which one is the purest of them all. Surely some to the bottom must fall. Which one is awake, and which one is a fake. What a waste, when we comparison on appearance is paced. If we recall, the one that is running the ball. Is there really for any of this a call? Awareness here. When we awareness seek, we may think it comes from a high peak. A lustrous phenomenal event. That somehow is heaven sent. It is as misleading as smoking a joint. To believe that will get us to the point. Absolute wholeness cannot be found. No matter how much we seek or run around. No one can give it to us either. No matter how attractive a promise from a teacher or leader. There is nothing to get, no matter the mindset. This is the plot. How can we ever get what we already got? Absolute wholeness is now and here, not there. Standing empty. It fell apart, like a broken cart. Nowhere to turn, nothing to learn. Falling through the haze into the arms of grace. The timeless infinite void full space without a trace. Abiding. Abiding is letting things be. No matter what it is we see. Let things be the way they are. Put nothing away behind a bar. Judge not the emotional, physical or mental state. Let go of picking, choosing and controlling fate. It happens to be what's on the plate. No technique will take you there. What we seek is already here. The uncaused dance will go on. Even when resistance, weigh it done. Hear the inner call and the burden may fall. Dance of existence. We look at the ocean and what do we see? Is it the vastness and longing to be free? What is it that moves our being, without us it seeing? We watch a cloud in the sky. Do we believe it is up high? Or does the illusion of time and space hold us in a daze? Do we exist? Because we've been given the following list, the name is, the birth date is, the SS hash is, the title is, etc., etc., etc. Is there anyone there to claim any fame? Or is it just part of the game? If there is personal love in the heart, then didn't hate come along, the moment love did start? Can we know impersonal love? Or just give it a symbol, like the free flow of a dove? How can we know anything at all, without stumble and eventually fall? Can we know what we are? Or is it beyond knowledge, behind mind's bar? Investigate what is behind thought. We might just find the source that all of this taught. Noiseless silence. It is the nature of the mind to disquiet find. In order for silence to find the way, we have to walk away and be astray. Nothing is rude when abiding in quietude. Riff-raff. We hardly ever question a spider walking on the ceiling upside down, or find it debatable of a tornado to wipe out a town. These are natural occurrences, and accepted as such. How come this the mental world doesn't touch? There we ferociously debate right and wrong, with heated arguments and jargon. Only thoughts fight and discuss, making a racket and a fuss. How do we know that thoughts are our own? Maybe they just into our head have flown. So why not look at them from a brighter side? By observing them strut and stride, without having to us on such a ride. Keep an eye on the riff-raff in the head, and we can with more peace go to bed. The spider. The spider silently weaves its net, without any fret or regret, patiently and effortlessly waiting, free of worries over the latest rating, living intensely in the moment, and abiding, watching what the net may be providing, content that everything falls into place, by natural existence and grace. Is there a you or me? From whence are we coming? Who is through us drumming? Who speaks through our vocal strings, to believe or discard all it brings? Who hears through our ears to bring smiles or tears? Who sees through our eyes, to think it sees all sides? Are we the ones executing these acts? Are we sure of these facts? If we find we are not, what have we got? Identification. Consciousness appeared as a thought and gave everything a name, even though the original substance is one and the same. Only those endowed with thinking and a mind can this unique feature use and find. Animals and plants carry no such identification or classification. They, like humans, live by survival and instinct. The addition of the mind makes the humans from this distinct. If you remove the identifications and names, there would be none there to play the games. With awareness this may be embraced and the reality of it faced. The dance and game will go on. But now none is there to claim identification of the dance and song. No more secrets. There appears a thought that there are angels with wings, that in heaven and on earth gives blessings and sings. There appears a thought that there is life after death, and many spirits around, some free, some bound. There appears thought that there are masters on high, to instruct you how to through dimensions fly. There appears as a thought that there is channeled information, to give you the secrets to what is called creation. There appears a thought that there are gurus, sages, teachers and avatars, to look up to, admire, and treat as stars. there appears a thought that there is reincarnation. To continue the temptation, to believe in the wheel of birth and death, until you take your last breath. Unless by grace there is a lifting of the lace, from our face, so we can more clearly see. This was part of what needed to be, in order to make creation appear real. It is sustained through this deal. With this revealed, there are no more secrets sealed. By all means play the designed role. But no, you and all else, are originating from the whole. Source played through all the role. Now returning to the whole. Unqualified existence. Unqualified existence is undemanding, and requires no ownership or branding. Free of pursuit, no longer taking delivery of any fruit. Aspiration gone for nothing it long. Goals receded with the past. Here and now is infinitely vast. So ordinary and plain. There is nothing to attain. Existence on its own maintain what it is required to sustain, without the need to anything attain. It is soul and whole. Life flows. Wherever life goes, it naturally by itself flows. It needs no improvement or amendment, transformation or alteration. It flows though the ever-changing tide. Within it we are submerged in the ride. Whatever roadway it takes, there is nothing at stakes. It has no goal, it is in itself whole. Futility. The discovery may appear brutal, with the final dawning of how it is totally futile. To improve, do, search, look and see, instead of just be. Nobody can give us the answer. Only point to what is hiding under the concealing lancer. Being a sovereign dancer erases the question and answer. The final utility is the discovery of futility. Conceptlessness. When there is no past, concepts cannot last. Concepts last, when we hold on to a past. The past contain every story we've been told, and they have on us a hold. Unless we are called to be bold, and walk away from the common mold. Stories of reincarnation, birth and death. Stories on how to live, and how to die. Stories on how to love and heal, on how to feel. Endless stories to uphold a past, so concepts can last. Seeing through the mist is total annihilation of the story list. Empty space. Empty space is grace, yet feared, because of all that which disappeared. Particularly everything that was once so revered. Empty space is uncomfortable to embrace, because of what emptiness replace. Does not leave any trace, and is void of familiar reference, foundation and base. It comes across as a loss, until revealed in an instant os. Grace being empty space. The end. So this is the end. Nothing more to defend. It was such false seeing, and devoid of truly being. Such a tug and a pull, that leaves us both empty and full. Lost in a pool full of thought. We were for a long time caught, until there was an abandoning of all hopes and dreams, while the mind in agony screams. Letting go of everything around as we find ourselves drowned. To be given life again. Accepting it is nothing like past then. Now there is just a notion of the erroneousness of all commotion. The play is taken more lightly. The stage shines more brightly, to give rise to a different shine. No longer colored by me and mine. Imaginary journey. The imaginary journey finally dissolves into the conclusion. There really is no mindful solution. When existence put up the veil, it was so the mind could mentally sail out into the world, and absorb all it heard. As such it did start the evolution to take in knowledge and be smart. Explore and invent. From the basic to the heaven sent. Setting up laws, rules and codes. It sustains even the heaviest loads. When the veil dissolve, is there anything or anyone to evolve? Is there a you, is there a me? Or can existence only be? In the merge there is a surge. To silent intimacy caress depth of wholeness bless. wholeness. Through these pages, thoughts have taken us on an illusory trip. Just to some of the concept flip, and give us a closer grip of what is nearer than our fingertip. That, which upholds the quest, is not a test. It holds no cause, and therefore no flaws. No will of our own can this atone. So rest in peace that what happens is not a tease. Simply part of what is, and nothing is amiss. In wholeness be free. Chapter 3. Miscellaneous Exposures. Is about disclosures. Mind and heart. There is no difference between mind and heart. Unless by concept they are taken apart. Some point a finger to mind thinkers as having no feelings. Some point a finger to heart thinkers as incapable of rational dealings. Some value heart over mind as being a more honorable find. Some value mind over heart as being a more scientific or idealistic start. Both are ideas born from judging and comparing, believing one of them more loving or caring. Both are illusions caused by thought's delusions. They are both the same origin sharing. The one source that is all rearing. To be daring is to recognizing the one absolute bearing. And there is no more need for judging and comparing. The heart that is sought does not come from thought. Devotion versus inquiry. Devotion carries the quality of a love potion, nurturing and smooth as a rose-filled lotion. Inquiry carries the quality of investigation, finding its way through negation. Devotion surrenders and is tender. Inquiry goes on a quest, putting everything to test. One is not bad or the other one good. This must be understood. When the heart and mind merge, there is no longer the urge to surrender or question at all. Joined in the infinite ball, surrender and quest fall. Causeless provider. There is a provider without a cause, existing effortlessly without flaws. The provider may be known by many names, yet no name the provider claims. Causeless provider without a clause, arose from the absolute wholeness to venture and browse through the identification of mouse, mistakenly believing it separate from what sustains the cyber house, by means of memory through time and cyberspace. The causeless provider gets a hold and a base by storing knowledge and stories on the disk space, surfing the net for chips and clips, weaving web dreams and imaginary lips. Owing to a sudden crash and interface, the concepts and stories are removed from the database. Once again provider without a cause, existing effortlessly without flaws. Absolute wholeness without a call to browse. Grace. Grace enhances creation, and upholds its preservation. Simplicity is one of its traits. From there it complexity creates. It is grace that tells us stories and tales, when all hope and trust fails, giving assurance of faith along life's many trails. Grace endures, through all the detours. Grace born from stillness adheres to no less than what it has come to bless, namely existence as it appear to be, till you are called to see that under every created form and tree, grace and stillness are brewed in the same cup of tea, and eventually back to wholeness will flee. Creation unveils, through the form of thoughts and tales, where objects on mirrored waters sails. When the sails fold and stories and tales are untold, there is no creation to unfold. Up in smoke. It all goes up in smoke. When a hole through stories and concepts we poke, seeing the joke releases us to freely soak. Even the concept of when and then was written by a conceptual pen. Nothing happens apart from here and now. Not even the ancient Tao. Because the happening is always in the now. We may read it and think it was written back then, but that is also the conceptual pen. The fire's stoke and it all goes up in smoke. The rose? Suppose the rose got a name, to some identity claim. Isn't it the same with everything that is given a name? By such name, it identity claim. Whatever is given a name, word or sound, allows identification to get bound. Separation is born by what is torn. Separation cannot exist unless there are words or names to it in list. The rose is not a rose unless there is such a name to it impose. The ocean is not blue, but without the color who is there to have a clue? So who is that was born or shall die? Could that story and concept also be a lie? The wheel of existence goes on through stories, tales and song. The greater the movement can swirl, the more objects can dance and twirl. Unaware of what moves the wheel to whirl, most relate from the wheel's rim, where life is based on sink or swim. Some relate from the spook of the wheel, where there is less drama to wheel and with deal. A few relate from the center, where only what is can enter. The bee that you on a flower sometimes see, is attracted to the flower of the sun. It will for its nectar chase and run. The nectar that we also seek is closer than one's cheek, but appears so far, like a distant star. We seek it through others, often starting with our mothers, and ending with our lovers. In between were many events that appear as scratches and dents, opening the gates and vents to search for ease, find some peace, leading us to cease having expectations and pleas, and eventually see through the debris. The finch, the nature of a finch, does not let thought go on a binge. The nature of man is to more and more thoughts into mind cram. Man's fueled by comparison and distinction. All species fueled by survival and fear of extinction. The question to expose, what did this entire thing compose, is by nature radically hidden, and mostly forbidden. Unless we are here to see through the haze and face the faceless face that provided the story that gave existence a base. From uncaused silence, stillness, wholeness and grace. When a finch goes on a binge, thistle seeds will cringe. When man goes on a mind cram, it often opens the misleading floodgates of a dam. The ink uncaused and unaware, suddenly, beware, found itself on the slate, and started to create. By drawing a quill, to emptiness fill. And the first character was sketched, as the canvas was stretched. The play began, as the characters on the stage ran. If we trace the ink backwards, where do we sink? The rebel has a cause, to notice all flaws. He walks away, but not astray, to inquire within and debate. Sorting out, throwing out and negate. He seeks no out-resistance. Even when there is resistance, nothing can him tame, part of the game. Existence plays, in many ways. Not called to follow the mainstream rule, does not make him cruel. Even the rebel will find, through the way of the mind, that the mind, will be left behind. What it sought it could not find. The gift of presence render mind antiquated, changing everything, about how we related. Noticing there is no cause and no flaws. Presence. In the present moment here and now there is no room for two. Only in time/space continuum can duality be true. The mental selves, minds, kicking like a flu. All of a sudden we are confused and don't have a clue. Mind being non-material and made up of words and talk, hover over us like a mighty hawk. Mind will us hunt and stalk, because mind gave us the notion to search and seek, always looking beyond the next Greek. Return to matters at hand. On our feet in this moment here and now stand. The mental selves will themselves into pieces blow, when we in presence flow. It is the only thing original and alive, and no thoughts can it bribe. It is the natural guide on this inherent ride. Choice or freedom? Freedom does nothing possess. It comes with saying yes. Freedom is no choice or preference. Just natural movements is ordained without reference. Freedom is movement with no choice. Only thoughts and mind operate with these ploys. Freedom is that which moves and sustains being, and not dependent on word thoughts or seeing. Freedom is not contingent on choice and decisions. It moves, as it must by design precisions. Acceptance of freedom is the abandonment of personal doership and the realization that with self-identity gone there is no free will. There is no longer a separate self to adhere to the concept of free will. And whatever is required to happen, happens effortlessly. Chapter 4. Imposters. Is about getting caught in thought. Consciousness is stirred by a thought that is heard. The imposter. It is still an imposter. No matter how much you try to thought's foster. Sneaking up into the mind. Ownership of thought is fierce unless we through it pierce. Possession of thought is compelling. Until we see they have no claim on our dwelling. Getting to the bone is seeing there is no thought that is our own. We can them only clone. Leaving thought alone, by not making them our own, is rediscovering the throne. What is hidden on the throne, but the one that itself clone? Thought's source. Thoughts come to us in a blink. And there is no way that we can first of them think. So who is there to claim volition of them as our think-link? Every time we think a thought to be ours, we are stepping on to a separate course away from the source. Let the thoughts come and go and we will stay in the flow. Aware that they are not running the show. The brilliant fraud. When identified with stories, concepts and the general crowd, we are unable to see the brilliant fraud. And what truly lies behind the cloud. When concepts and stories cease to have a hold, what will unfold cannot by anyone be told. And we can on nothing be sold. Not even the story of enlightenment can have a hold. Thoughts and events will come and go, and most spontaneously through us flow. No more attributes are pasted onto life. No more carvings are done with a separate knife. Behind the cloud there is no longer the brilliant fraud. And no concepts and stories to identify with a separate crowd. The bonsai tree. When life starts expressing as you, me and we, it can be likened to a bonsai tree that finds itself as you, me and we in a small spot. Realting only from the framework of that small pot. Trimmed and pruned by life it eventually grows to produce each unique appearance that life then seduce. To forget the one source that sustains the growth of you, me, we and both. Underlying this little conceptual symbolic story is the root to all this life and manifest glory. Thoughts are devote. When it comes to bring conceptual stories a root. And that is what thoughts are all about. Shrek on a trek. Much like the computerized movie Shrek. Is the creative manifest mind walkabout and trek. They both start with a thought. And from the creativeness is taught. Be it the scope of the encompassing universal whole. Or a minute detail of the collective soul. They are both appearing from a thought that takes on a role. Most will this revelation dismiss. Should there even be a thought that come and express this? Such is the secrecy of thought. It doesn't like to be rendered caught. The calling to believe what thoughts has to say is what gives rise to the manifest play. Unborn. No matter what one receive, it is all a matter of how one thought perceive. One disjoins, and thoughts get an upper coin. One goes to two, and born are a you. One divides, and a me take on the prides. One split apart, and we get a start. No matter where one look, such separation is all it took. This separation perpetuates the creative manifest thought, in which an illusory you and me get caught. In essence, the only things that was ever born is the thought that got forlorn. There is nothing to mourn in the acceptance of being unborn. Being unborn, nothing is torn. Here not there. What is here cannot be there. What creates fear is the constant thinking of being somewhere other than now and here, Thinking will take us many places. Around and around it races. Seeing many, many faces. When we thought backwards trace, we uncover the underlying base that gives existence a name and face, commonly called source, God or grace. It is this one face that appears as many every place. Here and now when we see a place and face, all there is source, God or grace. Of separation there is no trace. It is now and here, not there. Primal thoughts. When the primal thought, mind, got a start, unity of one came apart. Thoughts give rise to existence in the form of inherent resistance. The interrelated opposites are thoughts that measure, and is the creative principle's treasure. Every thought that arrive for separation strive. The mind's stories are endlessly entertaining. Stories that constantly require maintaining. However, there is a spontaneous regaining. When thoughts are seen for what they are containing. No more remorse or complaining. Unity is submerged in silence. And holds no thoughts of either peace or violence. Thought storm. Absolute wholeness is contained in the dorm. Until divided by a thought storm. Giving rise to conscious beingness through matter and form. Vibrantly moving through time and space. So thought-created conscious beingness can have a measured base. And the capacity to create a myriad of species, each with a distinctive face. Uniquely programmed to perform according to what is written on the slate. Conscious beingness creatively sustains, destroy and compose what it is by nature founded to impose. Until it comes to a close, where the creative thought of conscious beingness once again goes comatose. The origin of conscious beingness is stirred by a thought that is heard. Chapter 5. 2, 1, None. One voice. There are many speakers, only one voice. Appearing separate and with a choice. In the hall of mirrors the one stand. Giving reflections of more than one brand. Mistaken itself with more as life's constant chore. Yet, always, one at the core. In form through continuity. Boundless divinity, formless in infinity. When in the stillness, there are no pieces and chess. Creation in recess. Embracing wholeness and nothingness in its fold. No formless or form to hold. Life's acting. There is only one life, consciousness, on a throne. Life functions without help and on its own. Life thinks, acts and breathes. Concoct and brews the many meads. That gives rise to the notion of separate species and breeds. By nature life itself misleads. And takes on delivery of the proceeds. Until life its own garden weeds. And life itself leads to undo its own creeds. Life supersedes into non-wholeness, and recedes. Play of duality. Once upon a time, there was none. Spontaneously giving rise to one. Out of which two were born. When one in pieces was torn. The play of duality began. When two or more onto the stage ran. The play set upon the backdrop of space. Given duration in time to uphold each species and race. Unity of one. Is to see how all this begun. Separation fades away. And, one returns to stay. One space. There is only one space. With plenty of stars and planets to overbase. Stars and planets come and depart. Like a supernova that's built apart. Space remains. Even when there are no objects to detain. The backdrop of space is the one essence of grace. Stars and planets may go ablaze. What remains leaves no trace. The untouched silence of space. Cardinal stillness. Is the blank board without checkers and chess. Postings on this board is when one arise from none to express. And the whole creative story from then on progress. By one to two or more on the board address. Including all the interrelated opposites like more or less. and the concepts of time and space profess, leading to the notion of a past and future to obsess. Such is the writing on the wall, when none goes to one in the reflective hall. So creation can have a ball, and the appearance of one to two or more in thrall. Cardinal stillness underlies and encompasses it all. There is no separation in cardinal stillness and what it may scrawl. Cardinal stillness is none to one and all. The base, whatever origin you backwards trace, you will come face to face with absolute wholeness and nothingness being the base, with the origin of all revealed. The seeker and sought are permanently sealed. There is none or nothing more to be healed. In the absolute the stories and tales are enclosed, until by chance they are endorsed, to move in time and space, and appear as a name and face. Yet, absolute wholeness and nothingness is always the base. When you see through the haze, unmasking, with self-identity consciousness bask, with less and less identity consciousness unmask. Every mask along the way comes from thoughts that this or that sway. Self in duality with consciousness in reflections play. Self in oneness does still consciousness portray, with the final falling away of the one mask to none. All consciousness, including oneness, drops away and is done. The root of creation. The root of creation is in the cessation of the being a creator at all. That you need give a name and something call. To stand straight and tall is resting in the absolute before the call of the imposition of what you now creation call. It is the only stateless state where there is no otherness to relate. Even the guru and teacher are no longer available as bait. Conscious beingness is rendered fake. No attributes, no fate, no trait. Absolute wholeness neither asleep nor awake. The absolute, standing alone and resolute, fosters conviction in the absolute, no longer moved by the enchanting flute. There is total assurance of the absolute, liberated from concepts that pollute. Nothing exists apart or separate from the absolute, freed from any binds that deludes and dilute. Wholeness is found in the absolute. The nature of the absolute requires nothing to convict and dispute. There is no mind to ever compute the nature of the absolute, silent nothingness. What rests behind oneness is nothing less than no thing, out of which came something. What rest in silence but the first sigh? So words could out of it fly. One confess, no one knows wholeness and nothingness. There we can only be free. N, none is no body and nothing, and does to no thing cling. None remains unknown, except for where the seed is sown. None walks with no self or distinction, reduced to extinction. Not looking for right or wrong, for nothing none long. There is no yes or no. It can only be so. None acts without obstruction, and encounter no creation or destruction. None takes no pride in walking alone, or pity any path or condone. None require no crowd or mob, condemn no simpleton nor snob. Matters not over any claims. There is nothing none blames. All words, whereas written, spoken or mentally conceived are in the end falsifying truth about the author. I lives quietly and goes where life takes her. Here and now is home. That which writes here and everywhere is the one sphere, that from silence into words, images and sound appears. www.allu.com